welcome back to the channel where your likes, comments, and subs are always greatly appreciated. For this video, I wanted to give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at as to how I record multiple pocket operators into a multi-track recorder. If you've seen some of my videos before, you know that I use pocket operators to make video game covers of retro video game music, and then adding some papercraft visuals to the video. But in order to be able to do that, you're going to need a combination of pocket operators or any kind of synthesizers that have a MIDI clock or have some way to sync them. And then you're going to need the right cables to bring that sound into the multi-track recorder. So for multiple pocket operators, you can link these together with different types of stereo cables, and you could bridge them together by using the output of one into the input of the other, and then the output of one into a multi-track recorder. So you could run that out as mono, you could run it out as stereo. The problem, if you do that, the audio from this pocket operator will go into this pocket operator and it will carry out as one channel, and you don't have any mixing control. Now you can adjust the volume levels on this pocket operator and the volume controls on this pocket operator, but you just don't have that tight control if you do actually want to mix it down into something that sounds reliably good in your final mix or in your final video. So for this video, it's just going to be an instructional video on how I tie and link two pocket operators together, sync them together, and then run them into a multi-track recorder. Okay, for this example, I'm going to hook up two pocket operators in tandem in order to play the theme song to the Game Boy game Robocop. My first pocket operator, or my master pocket operator, is going to carry most of my rhythm audio. I'll have like what's a rhythm guitar essentially, along with a bass line and some of my percussion, and then my secondary pocket operator will carry the melody. I can hook these things up with 3.5 millimeter male stereo cables and run that audio from the master pocket operator into the secondary pocket operator. But like I mentioned, you get kind of a jumbled mess when it comes to the audio, and you cannot discreetly control those tracks on your multi-tracker for fading those individual tracks. So the better setup is to start off with that rhythm pocket operator, and instead of using a basic stereo cable that'll run out, we're instead going to use a 3.5 millimeter male end stereo cable, but have that split off into the left and right stereo. In order to understand how the pocket operators sync and send their audio at the same time, it's worthwhile to take a step back and look at what the end of the 3.5 millimeter plug actually is. And these are typically referred to as TRS jacks. With that, there's just three different components on that male end of the cord. And the first part is the tip that will conduct a signal. Then the second part is in the middle, and that is simply the R, or the ring. And then the third part is the S, or sleeve. The sleeve is usually just a ground, but the audio signals are typically sent through the tip and the ring. So for the pocket operator, we can send the syncing track, the syncing signal or click track, through the left side, or what would be the tip of the 3.5 millimeter input. So that's going to output it as a tip, and that will be our sync or our click track. Then our audio will be sent off, which would normally be the right channel. That will be sent off as a mono audio signal, and that is the ring. So that's the ring part of that 3.5 millimeter jack that's going into that pocket operator. So that's how we can send off the signal separately from the click track. Now we just need some 3.5 millimeter male to 3.5 millimeter male TRS or stereo cables to put in place. So now we can send the audio discretely off to the multi-tracker input number one, or whatever input you want. But this way you just send the audio from the master pocket operator off by itself, but let the sync sound then go into the secondary pocket operator. The secondary pocket operator then will only pick up the sync signal, and then it can output its audio signal. With that, we can continue the chain by simply using one of those splitter cables, so 3.5 millimeter stereo cable on one side, male, that goes into the secondary pocket operator, and it'll still do the exact same thing, split off the sync track as the tip and the audio off on the right side, so the ring side. With that, you just need some more cables in place, and you could put in a 3.5 millimeter male to 3.5 millimeter male TRS or stereo cable again into the ring part there, that audio part, to send the audio off to your multi-track recorder. For here, you could send it off to input number 2 in this example. Then you have a couple different options. You can continue on the chain, add a third pocket operator, and send your sync to that pocket operator, or you can simply end the chain and no longer worry about sending off the sync signal. You do not have to plug anything into that sync jack that's coming off of the secondary pocket operator. One thing to note, depending on your maybe mixing board that you're inputting this thing into, or if you're putting it directly into a multi-tracker, you may need to add 3.5 millimeter to 1/4 inch converter adapters in order to be able to send the sound correctly into the inputs of the multi-tracker for recording purposes. The final thing that you need to do is then adjust the sync settings on the pocket operators. So they have several different sync settings. The default sync setting is SY0 or no sync, but in order to cycle through the different syncing options, you simply have to hold down whatever the pocket operator's function key is in the upper right hand corner. For the PO-128 Megaman, it's the glide button. If you hold that and hit the BPM button or that tempo button, you will be able to cycle through your different syncing options. So for the master pocket operator, we want to set that up for SY1, which will send the sync signal or that click track off into the tip or the left side, and then the audio will be sent through the right side. But for the secondary pocket operator, we need then to cycle through the settings and set it up for SY3. This means that the input side of that secondary pocket operator is ready to pick up a sync signal, and it will act as a secondary pocket operator, and then it'll send the audio out in a mono channel to the audio source. Or it'll also then at the same time send off a sync signal on the tip side or the left side of the audio channel. Additionally, if you have this as your last pocket operator in the chain, you can set that to SY4, which would send off a stereo audio out. And this way you could plug in whatever you'd like to hook it up to some headphones or directly run that maybe into a multi-tracker. All right, so once you have your pocket operators all hooked up, you could see it's a pretty tangled mess of wires. And if you add on a third or a fourth pocket operator and running that into your multi-track recorder, you can quickly see how this can become a mess, a tangled mess of cords. You want to keep things organized and know where your audio is coming from, and you want to know where you're sending your click sync to. Now, once you're all set up, you're ready to go, and you could just hit play on the one controlled pocket operators and have it wait for the signal that's going to come from the master pocket operator. It would be great if you can also sync up those clocks to your multi-track recorder. Now, sadly, on the Zoom R20, it does not have an ability to sync to pocket operators. There is a click track built into the Zoom R20, but the click track has a strong downbeat on number 1. So if you have 4/4 time, you get a strong downbeat on number 1, and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 are weaker clicks. So with those weaker clicks, you get a strong click on 1, and then 2, 3, 4 are lesser clicks. It doesn't send a tight sync signal to the pocket operators. Essentially, it winds up cutting your beats per minute down by multiplying it by 0.25 and cuts your time down. So that's what the pocket operators will pick up as the sync signal, and it's not going to work for you, sadly. Luckily, you do have the touchscreen so that once you sync these up together, you can have the first couple patterns play, which I'll have the first couple patterns play on this pocket operator. And then after 4 patterns, this pocket operator will pick up the melody with the backing behind this pocket operator. Once you lay that down onto the Zoom R20, they'll be in sync perfectly, and then you could just trim things up as you need to on the touchscreen, and this way you could, if you want, snap it to the grid where the grid time here, I've got beats per minute at 105, and I also have this project set for 105. So I can trim things up to get it to match my grid perfectly here, but with other multi-track recorders, your mileage may vary depending on whether or not it has some sort of syncing clock to set things up with the pocket operators. So with that, let's take a look at what it's like to record once you set everything up and get your levels all set. I'm going to have the first 4 patterns play here and then continue on with the rhythm track. Then the melody will pick things up after on pattern number 5 with this, but it'll be perfectly in sync once you have all the cables routed correctly. I'm going to hit play on this pocket operator to arm it, and you can see it's ready to go based on the flashing play symbol at the top. I've got my level set. I'm going to hit the record button on the multi-tracker, and then I'll hit play over here on the master pocket operator. This will play 4 patterns, and then on the 5th pattern, the melody will come in perfectly in sync, and I'll be able to control fader levels using my faders on the multi-track recorder. So here we go, record and then play. So as you can see, you can play pocket operators together perfectly in sync on any multi-track recorder. Whether or not it's synced to your grid is going to depend on if your multi-track recorder has some sort of sync control out. But it's an easy way to be able to route this pocket operator's sound into channel 1 in this instance, and this pocket operator sound into channel 2, and then those will go on to track 1 and track 2 of my multi-track recorder. Now I can mix these down differently. I can apply separate discrete effects to them, and I don't have to do it as if all the sound is coming out of the second or whatever the final pocket operator is in your chain. You actually have full mix down control in your song creation. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.